Hello everyone, it is Antoinetta Mosley of I Follow the Leader LLC, and everything that is discussed in this video are the views of I Follow the Leader. So I really want to respond because a lot of you read my LinkedIn post yesterday, and as I said, it was the most brave, courageous, and uncomfortable post that I had ever posted on LinkedIn since I joined 10 years ago. But I really need to follow up with that and just a lot of inquiries I've been getting, a lot of statements of support I've been receiving, a lot of company statements that I've been reading and researching and delving into. I really want to remind us that we need to now take our anguish and move it to action. So yes, I feel your anguish. I feel your pain. I want to let you know that Black people, we feel this anguish every day of our lives. And so if you haven't known that and now you do, I am so grateful. Thank you. But now all races must turn our anguish into action. Without that, there will be no real change. I'm excited we're having the conversation. I went into a Zoom call yesterday that had amazing people like Barack Obama, John Lewis, and Brian Stevenson in it. It was an honor to be able to attend. It was called Health and Wellness in a Racism Pandemic Town Hall. I love that. We are in a racism pandemic. COVID-19 is new in America. It's a new pandemic. But racism has been a pandemic in America always. And I'm so glad that you're starting to think about it and address it. I want to let you know that there's a lot of activists and a lot of advocates who have been doing the diversity, equity, and inclusion work for years. I can say that myself and I Follow the Leader LLC, we have been doing that since 2016 when I wrote my graduate school thesis on diversity and nonprofit leadership overcoming barriers. I've done research. I have worked with amazing organizations like the United States Tennis Association. I want to call them out because they have always been amazing the past few years in this arena. So I've had the pleasure to work with them for years, and I am grateful for organizations like that. There's also organizations that are new to this space and that unfortunately aren't going to do anything around diversity, equity, and inclusion unless those who work and donate to these organizations ask them to. So moving from that anguish to action. You may have seen my blog last week, How to Be an Advocate to Help End Systemic Injustices. And I said it's time to react. So again, that action, we can't just feel anguish and feel pain and say that we stand with Black people. We have to react. Every race, it's time to react. I am pleading with you. Get off social media. We can't just post on social media. It's a great tool. It's a great resource. But what are you going to do outside of social media? I want to give you a few things that you could do today. Yes, it's a Saturday. It's Saturday, June 6, 2020. I want to encourage you to react today. Don't leave it to Monday morning. Don't leave it to tomorrow. Don't leave it to next week. Don't leave it to your next staff meeting. Don't leave it to your next board meeting. React today. All right. Ruminate. That's an internal assessment. Where are you internally as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion? Have you had people of different races in your home in the past few months? Obviously, because of COVID, maybe we don't want to say past few months. In the last year, have you had people over that are of different races? Have you had conversations with people of different races, different cultures, different religions, different sexual orientations? Where are you internally when it comes to feeling like you belong or that others belong in your space? Then we want to educate ourselves. We want to expose ourselves to resources. There's so many amazing resources outside of social media. We can read articles by experts on the subject. We can read books about experiences of people that look differently than us, and they give us tools and action steps on how to improve. We can listen to podcasts. We can watch movies such as When They See Us by Ava DuVernay, depicting a real story of 5 young black men in New York and what they went through when they were wrongly convicted. We can watch Just Mercy, that talks about the amazing lawyer Bryan Stevenson. I had the pleasure to sit in on the town hall, Health and Wellness in a Racism Pandemic, yesterday. Obama, Bryan Stevenson, John Lewis, and others talked, and a quote that Bryan Stevenson said is, "Things can move. There is something better waiting for us. There's something better waiting for us." Will we react? Will we take action? Do we want real change? I love it because I've been feeling something, and I've been saying this to my network, that this is different. This week has been different. And I love that Barack Obama acknowledged that and said, this was the most willing he has seen people of all races willing to have a conversation in his living history. And I agree. This is the most willing I've seen people to have a conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion, race, the killing of Black Americans, systemic injustices, police brutality, the lack of representation in leadership, the lack of training on diversity, equity, and inclusion in our workplaces across the country, not just corporate America, not just nonprofits, but in hospitals where Black women are disproportionately losing their lives and losing their children. In police forces where Black people are disproportionately being killed by the police. It's time to react. It's time to hold people accountable. I know many of you are new to this. Those of us like me who have been in this space, I am being so passionate in this video because I've been doing this work for the past 3 years, and I've been researching, and I've been working with companies. I've been speaking across the country. And so I can't let this moment pass. I cannot stay silent. I have been sharing resources for years, but this is the most I've seen people really willing to learn. And so I want to say thank you for going to the website. Thank you for learning. Thank you for reading my most seen blog post yesterday on LinkedIn. Over 1,500 people have viewed it in 24 hours. And if you viewed it, and if you've read it, or if you go read it after this, I urge you to react now. Take that internal assessment. Educate yourself. And then we need to assess. It's time to do a workplace assessment. Have you had diversity, equity, and inclusion training in the past year? Have you had it? Do you know the diversity of your leadership team, of your board? Do you have a strategic plan that has diversity, equity, and inclusion objectives and measurements in it? As Peter Drucker said, what gets measured gets managed. If we are not measuring diversity, equity, and inclusion in our workplaces, that sends a strong message that we don't actually care about it. If we haven't had a training and we aren't willing to put one on the books in the next month, yes, it can be done virtually, easily. You've been having meetings virtually. You've been on webinars. If you are not willing to have diversity, equity, and inclusion training and put it on the books, do you care? If it's not in your strategic plan, if your leaders aren't talking about it, if you didn't make a statement this week, do you care? I want to let you know, as a Black woman who has done the research and who is doing the work, my answer is no. If you haven't done training, if it's not talked about in strategic conversations, if your leadership hasn't talked about it, you don't truly value it. I want to address now the companies who have made statements this week. I commend you. Any company who hasn't, get it out there. You need to make a statement. But now let's address the companies who have made statements, but their values don't reflect the statement. It's time to react. It's time to take action. It's time to put some resources behind our words. It's time to put some initiatives behind our words. I'm here to help. There's a lot of resources on my site. Reach out to me personally. I said you could schedule 15 minutes with me for free. I want to let you know I have worked with companies across the country. I have spoken at conferences across the country, and I have seen people feel anguish, and they listen to the statistics and they're outraged, but then they don't follow it with the action, and their workplaces don't change. And the minorities in their workplaces, or the people who are different, don't feel they belong. There's increased turnover. And so it's not enough to read the statistics that companies who are more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive perform better if you don't truly believe it and then put in the action. I am encouraging people of all races to react today. Like I said on LinkedIn, I didn't bring it onto LinkedIn. Yes, I was doing so much behind the scenes. I've been talking to every CEO at every place I've worked at since I graduated with my degree and since I did my project paper on diversity and nonprofit leadership overcoming barriers. I have had the conversation. I have done the work. I have emailed people. But I had to say on the LinkedIn platform, I didn't feel comfortable posting this due to possible repercussions. But as Obama said, we are in a unique space in our lifetimes, and it's time to speak out. It's time to send the emails. So I want to go to Conversate, having the courageous conversations. I was on the AFP of the Triangle Call. I am so happy they asked me to join and share my experiences as a fundraising professional and as a DEI consultant. Now, I was the only Black person on the call. I'm used to it. I told us, let's look at the screen. And I've been encouraging that since COVID hit. Look at your screens. Really pay attention. Think about the anguish that the minority at your company feels, or in your group, or in your church, or wherever it is, if they're the only one or they're one of few. You may never understand. But just because you haven't experienced something doesn't mean it's real. So if you have more courageous conversations, we can understand people better. So I encourage you to have those conversations this week. And I have a few things that I want to tell you. If your company hasn't made a statement yet in the past week, it's time to email them. Yes, on a Saturday. If your leader hasn't reached out to you and you're a minority, yes, you should email them on a Saturday. If you have friends of different races who you want to reach out to you and you're wondering why they haven't called or texted, it's time for you to reach out. Yes, on a Saturday. If your children are of age to understand, it's time to talk to them about what's going on in our country and how they can be equitable. Yes, on a Saturday. I'm telling you this because I've done the hard work this week. And this, not just this week, but I've been emailing leaders for the past few years at the places I love, respect, work at, and give money to, and saying, what are you doing? And so I ask you to reach out to your employers if they haven't made a statement, or if they made a statement but you haven't done training, to say what's next. If they've done one training but it's not in your strategic plan yet, if they haven't sent out a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, it is time. The time is now. So now what? It's time to react. We want to ruminate, educate, assess, conversate, and teach. It's time. Now is the time. I want to close by sharing a quote from Barack Obama that has touched me deeply from yesterday's call. We all have some power. Many of us choose to give it up every day. If you're a leader, and even if you're not a leader, and you're in a company that has chosen to stay silent, or has chosen to voice their love for all people and to speak out against systemic racism, but they haven't put any action behind it, the time is now. Email them. If you need a template, reach out to me. I have sent many emails this week. I want to let you know that I emailed everyone who was involved in my wedding, in my weekends prior to my wedding. My husband and I reach out to everyone. So if you need a template to reach out to your friends, let me know. I've sent 5 emails to companies I'm really closely related with in many different ways. I had 3 leaders respond to me. All of these 5 leaders were white. The 3 people who responded to me were white women. The 2 people who did not respond to me were white men. Everyone did not answer my questions thoroughly, but some people did, and some people talked about the action steps their companies are taking or the action steps they vow to take. And that's what I want to see. I don't just want to see a statement. I don't just want to see an email or a text message to the Black people in your lives. I want to know what actions you are taking to make the world a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive place, not just this week or this month, but change that will last, change that will carry over into the next generations. And I can tell you from my research, the companies who have diversity, equity, and inclusion in their strategic plans, those who are measuring it, those who don't just have affinity groups, but have a DEI group with people of all races spearheaded by leadership, those are the companies that are making real change. And those are the companies that these kids of the next generation, they're going to feel they belong. I have warned people of this for years, and I want to warn you. If you choose to not take your apathy and turn it into action, your company long-term is not going to be successful. The United States population is changing. Not only the demographics, but our ability to be complacent and give our power away. So I want to remind you today, we all have some power. Let's use it to change our lives, our workplaces, and our communities. And let's start today. Yes, on a Saturday. Thank you so much. Please go to ifollowtheleader.com or email me at ifollowtheleader@gmail.com. If you have any questions, let's keep the courageous conversation going, but let's react. Let's react together. Thank you.